This is Bitcoin zoomed out on the monthly. It is screaming, the crypto bull market just getting started. We zoom in on Bitcoin on the 6 hour. Scary events taking place over in Israel over the weekend on Saturday. This is Bitcoin. Crypto charts in general just falling. This is what it looks like on Bitcoin. If you go to the daily chart, crazy structure playing out right now on the daily chart, even with this very high fear event. So I want to talk about all of these things. Hit the subscribe, hit the like. Let's jump into the video. Before we talk about that, I need to make a note of this because this is huge headline news. Hong Kong spot Bitcoin ETF approval is another major milestone. It's approved. On Bitcoin's march towards $1 million per coin, two global superpowers are now battling over a finite Bitcoin supply. This post over here from Thomas gives some good perspective. Since launching on January 10th, US ETFs, even including all GBT sales, have amassed 222,000 Bitcoin in just 65 trading days. That's 3,415 BTC daily. Now, Hong Kong ETFs join the game just as the weekends have folded, and miners have half as much to sell. Half as much to sell, everybody. We are days away from the Bitcoin halving. This is Bitcoin zoomed out on the monthly chart. As you all know, these lines that are going up and down the chart, these are the Bitcoin halvings. And right now we are in the month of the Bitcoin halving. So I want to obviously do some short-term technical analysis on Bitcoin, talk about the shorter-term structure, maybe short-term price action that we can anticipate. But before we do that, I do want to zoom out, and I just want to show a couple of things. And this applies to the broader crypto ecosystem. This applies to altcoin season. This applies to even if you don't hold Bitcoin and you hold altcoins and you're waiting for this crypto bull market, this applies. So this is Bitcoin on the weekly chart. And I have to continually remind myself, and that's why I probably talk about it so often in the videos. But when we're looking at this, what is happening right now is happening so early for crypto. Now, the daily chart and actually even what just happened over the weekend really kind of plays into this a little bit. But if we go to the weekly, a couple things I want to point out. If we open up the momentum oscillator, the RSI, slower moving momentum oscillator, get a sense of where's Bitcoin right now, hovering just above 70, around 72 on this RSI. If I go back, and here's where things really start demonstrating just the upward potential of Bitcoin and crypto for the rest of the cycle. If I go back to last cycle when Bitcoin was breaking this lower high Fibonacci, is a bull market door area. When it was breaking that area, Bitcoin was hovering up here around 83, and that was just kicking off the beginning of that parabolic move, right? And altcoin season, all of that. Now, if we look at where Bitcoin is right now comparative to that moment, Bitcoin just recently broke the bull market doors this time around. Pre-Bitcoin halving, Bitcoin's hovering around 72. That gives an idea of how much upside. If we go to the cycle before that, and we're talking about the bull market all the way back here in 2017, that parabolic move. Look at the RSI, this red line where Bitcoin is right now. Just look at the consolidation above that area multiple times. So much room for higher highs and higher lows in a bull market. And then lastly, if we go to the cycle before that, I'm talking about all the way back here in 2013, Bitcoin, before it even broke the bull market doors, the lower high Fibonacci right there, you can see Bitcoin right around 72 on that area before breaking that area and went crazy, parabolic. Obviously, those were different days. Bitcoin at the time was like $13 or so. But we go now and we really just get a really nice demonstration of Bitcoin. Yeah, it was overbought. It cooled down. And there is so much room for upside on that chart. Now, in terms of what is happening right now, we have the Bitcoin spot ETFs in the US. We have now Hong Kong approving the Bitcoin spot ETFs. We have Bitcoin halving days away right now. And all of this is happening right now after Bitcoin has given us this bullish confirmation, the bull market high to bear market low. It's that bull market door area being broken. All of this is happening months before every other cycle when it has happened, meaning it has happened after the Bitcoin halving every cycle. Now, if we go look at the charts right now on the kind of more zoomed in, this is where things become pretty interesting because this weekend was this was a high fear weekend for the world. and for markets. And the way in which Bitcoin reacted was very interesting and I think telling. You can see right now, just from a structure standpoint, and then we'll talk about, the news event, but from a structure standpoint, Bitcoin really has not done anything out of the ordinary. We're around the apex. We've gotten a breakout to the downside, and this was that event on Saturday, breakout to the downside below the lower trend line, and since then has pulled back into the apex. This is a very normal move, whether there's news or not. Now, oftentimes when we're doing technical analysis, this happens so often, a news event will be the trigger for a break one way or the other, bearish, bullish. In this case, it was a bearish break to the downside. Bitcoin dipped and then quickly recovered back into its structure. So right now we're in the apex of a symmetrical triangle, and you can see we have really two ways to go. Continued downside, right? So Bitcoin would make its way down into the 50s, into the mid, maybe the lower 50s, or we're going to continue recovery, and Bitcoin's going to break up towards its target of $85,000, $90,000 to the upside. Now, if we look at this right now, what I want to just make a note of on the short term is 50-day moving average is the first hurdle. Obviously, Bitcoin broke back into the apex above the lower trend line, but it's this 50-day moving average is a pretty big deal. The 20-day just above there, so that's a range of around 68,500 down to around 67,000. That's the big resistance range for Bitcoin, to see Bitcoin get back above that area. And then all of these areas are becoming quite confluent because it's such a small range now. The upper trend line, Bitcoin right around $69,500. So you can just see Bitcoin is at an incredibly just strong area of resistance. If Bitcoin breaks above, this could be a massive continuation for Bitcoin. What I want to just talk about, though, is the very fact that there is a very strong chance where Bitcoin sees resistance all in this area at the apex as it makes its retest, right? Broke to the downside, retest in. Hopefully the event is fully over and Bitcoin continues to upside. That's what everybody would like to see. But if there's resistance going into the halving, right, we might see Bitcoin actually retrace, right, and continue just consolidation. One thing on the daily I want to show you is the MACD. This looks ugly, but it's actually good. Bitcoin on the MACD on the daily chart has completely cooled down. And this is exactly what we want to see from mid-March. You see the MACD very overheated, and it was getting very overextended. And you can just see price overextended at that moment as well. From the 20, from the 50, it needed to consolidate it. It needed structure, and we're getting structure. Now, if we just look at the MACD, what usually happens? Well, if we open up the MACD on this momentum oscillator, just check this out. I just want to take just the very last area where the MACD line just kind of crossing below zero on the histogram, right? Just right here and then starting to bottom out. This was like towards the end of January or so. If we look at the chart, what was happening? That was the end of the consolidation, right? So there's a very strong chance all of this structure and all of the consolidation and all of the, we can just call it volatility because that's what's there. Volatility could be very well close to over. That could mean we do take a dip to the downside. Doesn't necessarily mean we have to hit the target in the lower 50s. The target could be of support, could be the upper trend line of this rising wedge. Remember, we broke out of the rising wedge in February. There's a nice target to $85,000 of the rising wedge to the upside, but we might be getting a typical throwback to the apex into halving before the continuation of the bull market. And what this means is Bitcoin would be doing exactly what it does with Bitcoin halvings. Consolidate. And that would be normal. And on this chart, even still, Bitcoin at the Bitcoin halving or right around the Bitcoin halving would be above these Bitcoin Fibonacci bull market doors. And again, if you zoom out on the chart, that has been an area Bitcoin has not even broken until months after the halving. So Bitcoin is in a very solid place right now. There is so much demand. The supply shock is real. And as this plays out, I think we're going to start seeing crypto and altcoins start making their moves as well. And again, this is putting aside any black swan event, high escalated event this year, right? And obviously the other day was a very good example how anything can happen at any time and it could absolutely throw all of these things off. It could throw the markets off like crazy. But here's Bitcoin dominance chart. What I wanted to show you is Bitcoin dominance made a nice move in the last weekly candle. Right now, consolidating once again. There's still a little bit of room for upside for a higher low, or I'm sorry, a lower high for Bitcoin on the macro. But what I want to say is, as we approach Bitcoin halving, historically, this is when altcoin season gets ready to show itself. And we are getting very close, right, to that happening. So altcoin season, since the bull market doors were broken for Bitcoin earlier this cycle, maybe altcoin season happens earlier this cycle. This is just a chart that I will be keeping a close eye on. Again, this is the lower high Fibonacci for Bitcoin. That has always been in play for Bitcoin to make a move to that area before altcoin season. But again, we'll see what happens, because even right now, I would have anticipated an even stronger move for Bitcoin dominance with everything that's been taking place lately. Bitcoin halving, the spot ETF news all over the place, but Bitcoin kind of just still hanging out in the 55 range. So we'll see. Altcoin season might be sooner than later, but that's one thing that we'll continue to track. Everybody, I appreciate you cruising through. It's all about, I truly think, this is for me, it's about pacing myself. And that's why I do these charts, to give myself a continued reminder, where are we right now in the cycles? And is price action even on the short term? Is it normal? And these things and answering these questions really help me just anticipate all scenarios and really just keep a cool head through these markets and as we head into halving. So these are my thoughts as we start this week, Monday, April 15th, 2024. I hope you're having a good start to your week. Hit the subscribe, hit the like. I'll see you in the next video. God bless.